I am sure you must have reflected. And so now, after you have been reflecting, we are going back. Now, Saint Teresa of Jesus said that people outside the castle are in the state of sin. So, how can you enter the castle? Of course, if you are a Catholic, you need to go to confession to a priest. But if you are a Muslim, or if you are any other faith, they have their way of trying to purify themselves. But for us Catholics, we really need to go to confession to a priest. And after that, we receive communion and we are restored to grace. So that means we have entered the first step. Now the first step is, Saint Teresa said, you are in the state of grace. But then, one foot is inside and one foot is outside. Meaning to say, the person here is still very, very weak. That every time he exposes himself to occasion of sin, he will surely commit the same sin. I know this because in Zamboanga, I used to have what they called Alcoholic Anonymous. Now, there were many alcoholics who came, and then I was asking them, why do you want me to organize this Alcoholic Anonymous? They said, sister, because while you were giving us a talk on deeper prayer, we did not go drinking. So maybe this kind of prayer that you are teaching us will help us not to go into drinking again. And so I organized in my Carmel what they call Alcoholic Anonymous. And you know, I really saw there what Saint Teresa said. She said that one foot of the person is still already inside, meaning to say you are in the state of grace, but one foot is still in sin. That is why I have noticed that many of them who were not anymore drinking, maybe 6 or 7 months, one drop only of whatever it is, wine or tuba or whatever it is, will make them go back into sin. That is why this is the kind of stage that they need to go with good companions. Why? Because if these companions will bring them back to their own bad habits, they will surely commit sin. These are the addictions in our life. There can be alcohol, there can be sex addiction, and many of our addictions, you are not completely healed. That is why you really need to get away from people who is leading you to sin. That's why in the church, they said that if you are in this stage, you will surely commit a sin if you will expose yourself to sin. That's why the church said that exposing yourself to sin is already a sin. It is for these people who are really in the first stage. Now, this is very true, and I saw this. This is what Saint Teresa is saying, because sometimes they are already healed. I mean, they do not go drinking for 7 months. And then, finally, their companions will bring them one drop of wine or tuba or alcohol will make them go back again to their addiction. That's the reason why at this stage in your life, don't go with companions who will lead you to sin, because you will really commit sin. And I have noticed, even if they have been already freed for 6 months and 7 months, especially that length of time, that is the time that they go back into sin. That's the reason why We need to pray. We need to pray for sinners. We need to pray for addictions, for people who are under addictions. Why? Because they need the grace of God to persevere. If you have family, brothers or sisters or husband who are addicted with alcohol, with all kinds of addiction, then we need to pray for them every day. Our Blessed Mother, every time she appears, she always asks to pray for sinners. This is what she meant, to pray for people who really wanted to give up sin, but they are so weak that one temptation will bring them back to sin. That is why Saint Teresa said, their one foot is there inside, but their other foot is outside. They can easily commit sin. However, if we are very generous, the Lord will lead us into the second level. What is the second level? The second mansion, she said. The second mansion, this is the characteristic. Saint Teresa said, it is a stage of humility. The person now knows that he or she is addicted, that he or she is always in danger of committing sin. There is already a humility to accept it. And then she said that these persons are already ready even to go into the higher states. Now again, I have an experience of this with my work with the Alcoholic Anonymous. There was a man in this stage, in the second stage, that after a while, she just did not go anymore to our meetings. And then so I was wondering where he was, but we could not find him in Zamboanga. But one day he came back, and then he said, "Sister," and he looked so well. And I asked him, "Where have you been?" And then he said, "Sister, I know very, very well that if I am here in Zamboanga, I can never be healed of my addiction." Why? Because I have friends, and every time they will bring me, I cannot avoid it. And as he said, even one drop of wine only will make him go back into addiction. So I said, "Where did you go?" And then he said, "I went to an island between Zamboanga and Hulo. These are really inhabited by Muslims. You know, the real Muslims will not smoke and will not drink." And he said, "There I am safe. They do not smoke and they do not drink." I became very interested with the person's life of prayer, because I was saying that he was really making a great sacrifice to leave his work and to go into that island. He's a complete stranger. And I asked him, "And who provides for you?" And he said, "My wife just bring me food." And he really had a very good work in Zamboanga. He sacrificed it. And so I asked him, I became very interested, and I said, "How do you pray?" And he told me, "Sister, I usually go every day with my Muslim friends fishing, because that is their way of life." And he said, "When I go about fishing with them, prayer is no longer a matter of time. I pray the whole day. I experience God in the ocean, in the sky, in the sun. And you know, I've come to realize that this person has already become what we call in the spiritual life, a person whose consciousness have really changed. And what we call in the spiritual life, he is already a contemplative. And a contemplative is in the fourth level. Meaning to say, from the second level, he overpassed the third level. And he became a person of prayer, a person that is deeply united with God." And I've been asking, why? Why is it that God gave him that grace? It is because he has given up so many things. And God really helped him to overcome his sin. You know, no one of us can overcome our sin. No one without the grace of God. But if we do some effort in order to be able not to commit sin, God will pour his grace on us, and he can even bring us to a very high level of prayer, as he did to this man. Imagine, he said, prayer is no longer a matter of time. I pray the whole day. I experience God in the ocean, in the stars, in all these things that I am doing. You see, in the fourth level of Saint Teresa's levels of prayer, the person will become prayer. Everything that he does is already prayer. It is very different when you are in the 1, 2, 3 level, because prayer is doing. You need to pray. You need to go to church. You need to pray the rosary. You need to do all of this. But the moment you reach the 4th level, everything that you do becomes prayer, except sin. You may be fishing, you are praying. You may be enjoying a beautiful movie, as long as it is not sinful, you are praying. You may be cooking in your own house, that is also prayer. You have become prayer. This man who was a great sinner, because he made such great sacrifice to leave his family, to leave his children, and to go into that island where he does not know anybody. He really sacrificed himself in order to be away from sin. That man reached that level that we call in the spiritual life the state of contemplation. Now, what is the state of contemplation? It is only interior freedom. Nothing can disturb you already. That's why John of the Cross is saying that true spirituality is a person who is really free. He said, it does not matter if a bird is tied with a rope or with a tiny thread, it cannot fly to freedom. Meaning to say, if you are disturbed, meaning to say you are not free. Process yourself so that you will be able to become free. After you have reflect on this, I will come back.